A chance encounter that changed everything. Rachel Bennett had always believed that God brought people into your life for a reason. As she walked through the sliding doors of Riverside Rehabilitation Center on that sunny Tuesday morning, she had no idea her entire world was about to shift. At 28 years old, Rachel had built a comfortable life as a pediatric nurse, surrounded by children who adored her gentle spirit and warm smile. Yet something was missing. Despite her success and the admiration of her colleagues, Rachel felt incomplete. Growing up in a deeply religious household in Tennessee, Rachel had been taught that love was sacred, that intimacy was a gift to be shared only with the right person. While her college friends had dated freely and experimented with relationships, Rachel had waited. She had turned down countless offers, endured mockery for her old-fashioned values, and watched as friends married and started families. Now, approaching 30, she wondered if her perfect match even existed. The man who had lost everything. Daniel Cross sat in his wheelchair near the large windows of the therapy room, staring out at the parking lot without really seeing anything. 4 years ago, he had been a decorated Marine sergeant, leading his team through challenging missions, pushing his body to its absolute limits. Then came the training exercise that changed everything. A parachute malfunction, a devastating impact, and suddenly Daniel found himself in a world where his legs no longer responded to his brain's commands. The physical recovery had been brutal, but the emotional journey was even harder. At 32, Daniel had rebuilt his life as a consultant for military equipment design, using his experience to help improve safety protocols. His work was meaningful, his financial situation stable, but his personal life felt empty. The woman he had been dating left within months of his accident. His confidence as a man had been shattered along with his spine. When two worlds collided. Rachel was delivering donated toys to the rehabilitation center's pediatric wing when she took a wrong turn and ended up in the adult therapy area. That's when she saw him. Daniel was working with resistance bands, his upper body strength evident as he completed his exercises. What caught Rachel's attention wasn't his obvious physical fitness or his handsome profile. It was the expression on his face, a mixture of determination and deep sadness that she recognized all too well. "Excuse me," Rachel said softly, approaching him. "I'm looking for the pediatric wing. I think I got turned around." Daniel looked up, and their eyes met. For a moment, neither spoke. Rachel felt something stir in her chest, a recognition she couldn't quite explain. "Take the hallway behind you, turn left at the nurse's station, then right," Daniel said, his voice deep and slightly rough. "You can't miss it. There's a giant teddy bear mural on the wall." "Thank you," Rachel replied, but she didn't move immediately. "I'm Rachel, by the way. Rachel Bennett. Daniel Cross." He extended his hand, and when their fingers touched, both felt an unexpected spark, the conversation that started it all. Rachel found herself returning to that hallway later that day, telling herself she wanted to make sure she knew the route for future visits. Daniel was still there, this time reading a book on engineering principles. "Still lost?" he asked with a hint of amusement. "Actually, I was wondering if you'd like some company," Rachel said, surprising herself with her boldness. "You look like you could use someone to talk to." Daniel studied her for a moment, trying to figure out her angle. Was this pity? Curiosity? But something in Rachel's eyes told him she was genuine. "Sure," he said, gesturing to a nearby chair. "Why not?" They talked for an hour that first day. Rachel learned about Daniel's military service, his accident, and his struggle to redefine himself. Daniel discovered Rachel's passion for helping others, her close relationship with her family, and her dream of someday having children of her own. What struck them both was how easy the conversation felt, as if they had known each other for years rather than hours. A connection beyond the physical. Over the next 3 weeks, Rachel found reasons to visit the rehabilitation center every Tuesday and Thursday. She told herself it was about the pediatric patients, but she knew the truth. She was coming to see Daniel. Their conversations grew deeper, more personal. Daniel shared his fears about never finding someone who could love him as he was now. Rachel confided her worries about being too old-fashioned for the modern dating world. "Can I ask you something personal?" Daniel said during their 5th meeting. "Of course," Rachel replied, sitting down beside his wheelchair. "Why are you spending time with me? I mean, really. A beautiful woman like you could be out with any guy she wants." Rachel took a deep breath, deciding to be completely honest. "Because when I look at you, I don't see a wheelchair or a disability. I see a man who fought for his country, who refused to give up when life knocked him down, who has more strength in his character than most people I've ever met. I see someone worth knowing." Daniel felt his throat tighten with emotion. "You really mean that?" "I wouldn't say it if I didn't." The question that changed everything. On their 7th meeting, Daniel made a decision that terrified him. "Rachel, would you like to have dinner with me? Outside of this place, I mean. Like an actual date." Rachel's heart raced. This was what she had been hoping for, but now that the moment had arrived, she felt nervous. "Yes," she said simply. "I would like that very much." "There's something you should know first," Daniel said, his expression serious. "I'm not the same man I was before my accident. There are things I can't do anymore, limitations that might affect any relationship I have." Rachel reached out and placed her hand over his. "Daniel, I don't have expectations based on who you used to be. I'm interested in who you are right now, today. And I think you should know something about me too." "What's that?" "I'm 28 years old, and I've never been in a serious relationship. I've been waiting for someone who sees me as more than just a good time, someone who values the same things I do about love and commitment. I don't know if that's you, but I'd like the chance to find out." Daniel looked at their joined hands, then back up at her face. For the first time since his accident, he felt hope blooming in his chest. "I'd like that chance too. Building something real." Their first official date was at a quiet Italian restaurant that Daniel had carefully researched for accessibility. He was nervous about how people might stare, about whether Rachel would be embarrassed to be seen with him. But Rachel handled everything with such natural grace that his worries began to fade. "Tell me about your family," Daniel said over pasta and wine. Rachel smiled. "My parents are wonderful, traditional people. My dad's a pastor, and my mom teaches Sunday school. I have 2 younger brothers who are both married with kids. They're going to love you." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I can already tell you're a good man, Daniel Cross. And that's all that matters to my family." As the evening progressed, they discovered more common ground. Both loved classic movies, both believed in the importance of family, both wanted children someday. The differences in their physical capabilities seemed less and less important compared to the growing connection between their hearts. The moment of truth. As Daniel drove Rachel home in his specially adapted vehicle, she turned to him with a serious expression. "Daniel, I need to tell you something important about who I am and what I believe." "I'm listening." "I was raised with very traditional values about relationships and intimacy. I believe that physical intimacy should be saved for marriage. I know that makes me unusual, maybe even old-fashioned, but it's important to me. If that's something you can't accept, I need to know now before we go any further." Daniel was quiet for a moment, processing this information. "Are you saying you've never been with anyone?" "That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saving that part of myself for my husband, whoever he turns out to be." Instead of the judgment or dismissal Rachel had experienced from other men, Daniel nodded slowly. "I respect that, Rachel. Actually, I admire it. In a world where everything is instant and disposable, you've held on to something meaningful. That takes real strength." Rachel felt tears prick her eyes. "You really mean that?" "I do. And I should be honest with you too. My accident affected more than just my ability to walk. There are intimate aspects of my life that are different now, complicated. If we're going to move forward together, you need to know that any physical relationship we might have would require patience, understanding, and creativity. I'm willing to learn, Rachel said softly. If you're willing to wait. Daniel reached over and took her hand. I've waited 4 years to feel this kind of connection with someone. I can wait as long as you need. As they sat in the car outside Rachel's apartment, both knew they had found something rare and precious. They had found someone who saw past the surface to the soul beneath. And that was worth waiting for. Opening hearts and sharing fears, the weeks following their first date transformed into months of the most meaningful courtship either Rachel or Daniel had ever experienced. They met 3 times a week, sometimes for dinner, sometimes for long drives through the countryside, and sometimes just sitting in coffee shops talking for hours. Rachel introduced Daniel to her favorite hiking trails, finding accessible paths where they could enjoy nature together. Daniel took Rachel to art galleries and museums, places he had avoided since his accident but now wanted to share with her. I need to ask you something, Daniel said one evening as they sat on a bench overlooking the city lights. What do your parents think about you dating someone like me? Rachel turned to face him, her expression gentle but firm. Someone like you? You mean someone intelligent, kind, and respectful? They think I'm the luckiest woman alive. You know what I mean, Rachel. The wheelchair, the limitations, the reality that their daughter's life would be different if she chose me. Rachel took both of his hands in hers. Daniel, my parents raised me to see people's character, not their circumstances. When I told them about you, my father said something I'll never forget. He said that a man who overcomes adversity with dignity and grace is worth 10 men who have never faced real challenges. My mother cried happy tears because she could hear in my voice that I had finally found someone who treats me the way I deserve to be treated. Meeting the family 3 months into their relationship, Rachel arranged for Daniel to meet her parents at their home in Nashville. Daniel had never been so nervous, not even during his first combat mission. He wore his best button-down shirt and slacks, made sure his wheelchair was spotless, and rehearsed what he wanted to say to Rachel's father. Thomas Bennett, Rachel's father, answered the door with a warm smile that immediately put Daniel at ease. You must be Daniel. We've heard so much about you. Please, come in. The evening exceeded Daniel's hopes. Rachel's mother, Catherine, served a home-cooked meal and asked thoughtful questions about his work and his interests. Her brothers, James and Andrew, talked to him about sports and military service without any awkwardness about his condition. But the most important moment came when Thomas asked to speak with Daniel privately on the back porch. My daughter is precious to me, Thomas began, sitting down across from Daniel. She's lived her life with integrity and faith, waiting for the right man. I need to know if you're that man. Daniel met his gaze directly. Sir, I can't promise Rachel a traditional life. I can't promise that everything will be easy or that we won't face challenges other couples don't have to consider. But I can promise that I will love her with everything I have, that I will respect her values and beliefs, and that I will spend every day trying to be worthy of the gift she would be giving me by choosing to be with me. Thomas studied Daniel for a long moment, then extended his hand. That's all any father can ask for. You have my blessing, son. The vulnerable conversations as their relationship deepened, Rachel and Daniel knew they needed to have more detailed conversations about their future, including the intimate aspects of marriage that both excited and frightened them. One quiet evening in Daniel's apartment, Rachel broached the subject. Daniel, I know we've talked in general terms about physical limitations, but I need to understand specifically what marriage to you would mean. Not because I'm having doubts, but because I want to be prepared. I want to know how to love you the way you need to be loved. Daniel appreciated her directness, even as the conversation made him uncomfortable. After my injury, I had to work with specialists to understand what was possible and what wasn't. I have limited sensation below my waist, and certain functions are affected. Some men with my type of injury can't have biological children naturally. Others can with medical assistance. Some aspects of physical intimacy work normally, others require adaptation and patience. And you're willing to share all of this with me? Even the difficult parts? Rachel, if we're going to build a life together, we need complete honesty. Yes, there will be challenges. Yes, there will be moments of frustration. But I've also learned that intimacy is about so much more than what our culture typically emphasizes. It's about emotional connection, trust, creativity, and the determination to give pleasure and receive it in whatever ways are available to us. Rachel listened carefully, asking questions when she needed clarification, never showing embarrassment or discomfort. I've been reading, she admitted. Books about disability and intimacy, articles written by couples in situations similar to what ours would be. I want you to know that I'm not going into this naive or unprepared. Daniel felt his chest tighten with emotion. You've been researching? For me? For us, Rachel corrected. Because I'm committed to making this work, Daniel. I'm committed to you. The proposal that changed everything. 6 months into their relationship, Daniel knew with absolute certainty that Rachel was the woman he wanted to spend his life with. He planned the proposal carefully, enlisting the help of Rachel's family to arrange a surprise at the rehabilitation center where they had first met. On a Saturday afternoon, Daniel asked Rachel to meet him at the center, claiming he wanted to show her something related to a new project. When she arrived, she found the therapy room transformed with flowers, candles, and photos from their time together. Daniel was waiting in the center of the room, dressed in a suit, his eyes bright with emotion. Rachel Bennett, he began, his voice strong despite his nerves, 6 months ago, you walked into this room looking for the pediatric wing and found me instead. In that moment, my life changed forever. You saw past my wheelchair to the man I am inside. You've shown me that love isn't about physical perfection, it's about two souls recognizing each other and choosing to grow together. Rachel's hands covered her mouth as tears began streaming down her face. Daniel reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. I can't get down on one knee, but I can offer you my whole heart. Rachel, will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving that you made the right choice? Will you be my wife? Yes. Rachel dropped to her knees beside his wheelchair, taking his face in her hands. Yes, Daniel, I will marry you. I love you so much. As they kissed, surrounded by the flowers and the space where their love had begun, both felt the rightness of their decision. They had found their person, the one worth waiting for. Preparing for marriage. The engagement period was filled with wedding planning, but also with deeper preparation for the realities of married life. Rachel and Daniel attended counseling sessions with both a therapist who specialized in disability issues and Rachel's father, who provided premarital guidance from a spiritual perspective. What are your biggest fears about your wedding night? The therapist asked during one session. Rachel spoke first. I'm afraid of disappointing Daniel because of my inexperience. I'm afraid I won't know how to navigate the physical aspects, that I'll do something wrong or make him feel inadequate. Daniel added his own concerns. I'm afraid Rachel will realize what she's given up by choosing me. I'm afraid the reality of my limitations will be harder for her than she anticipates. I'm afraid of not being able to give her everything she deserves. The therapist leaned forward. Those fears are normal and actually healthy because they show how much you care about each other's experience. But here's what I want you to understand. Your wedding night won't be perfect because no one's is. What matters is that you approach it with communication, patience, and love. Rachel, your inexperience isn't a weakness, it's a clean slate where you and Daniel can write your own story without comparing it to anyone else's. Daniel, your limitations aren't deficiencies, they're opportunities for creativity and deeper connection. The wedding day arrives. Rachel stood in the bridal suite of the small church where her father had married her parents 35 years earlier. Her dress was simple but elegant, chosen specifically for ease of movement. Her mother helped her with the final touches while her best friend, Jennifer, adjusted her veil. Are you nervous? Catherine asked, studying her daughter's face. About the ceremony? No. About tonight? Terrified and excited in equal measure. That's completely normal, sweetheart. But I want you to remember something. Your wedding night is the beginning of a lifetime together, not a performance that needs to be perfect. You and Daniel love each other deeply. That love will guide you through any awkwardness or uncertainty. Meanwhile, in another room, Daniel was having a similar conversation with his best friend from the Marines, Robert, who had traveled across the country to be his best man. You ready for this? Robert asked, helping Daniel adjust his tie. More ready than I've ever been for anything. Rachel is the best thing that's ever happened to me. And you're not worried about tonight? About the physical stuff? Daniel shook his head. We've talked about everything, multiple times. We have a plan, we have realistic expectations, and most importantly, we have love and trust. That's more than a lot of couples start with. The ceremony of commitment. The wedding ceremony was intimate, with only 70 close family members and friends in attendance. When the doors opened and Rachel appeared on her father's arm, Daniel felt his breath catch. She was absolutely beautiful, but more than that, she was his. She had chosen him, fully knowing who he was and what their life together would entail. As Thomas placed Rachel's hand in Daniel's, he whispered, "Take care of my little girl." "With my life, sir," Daniel whispered back. The vows they had written themselves were tender and powerful. Rachel promised to be Daniel's partner in every adventure, to face challenges with courage, and to love him through every season of life. Daniel promised to honor Rachel's trust, to cherish her dreams, and to build a life together that proved love could overcome any obstacle. When the pastor pronounced them husband and wife, their kiss was gentle, sweet, and full of promise. As they turned to face their guests, now officially Mr. and Mrs. Daniel Cross, both felt a mixture of joy and anticipation for what the night would bring. The reception and rising anticipation. The reception was held at a beautiful garden venue that Daniel had personally inspected for accessibility. They danced their first dance together, Rachel standing between Daniel's knees as he sat in his wheelchair, swaying gently to a song about enduring love. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. As the evening progressed, Rachel and Daniel stole glances at each other, each aware that the most intimate moment of their relationship was approaching. During dinner, Daniel leaned over and whispered, "Are you okay? You seem quiet." "I'm just thinking about tonight," Rachel admitted softly. "About how much I want it to be special for both of us." "It will be," Daniel assured her. "Because we'll be together, and that's all that matters." Finally, as the reception wound down, it was time for them to leave for the hotel. Rachel's mother hugged her tightly. "Remember, sweetheart, love is patient and love is kind. Communicate openly, laugh at the awkward moments, and trust in the bond you've built." As they drove away in Daniel's adapted vehicle, Rachel reached over and took his hand. "I love you, Daniel Cross." "I love you too, Rachel Cross. And I promise you, tonight we'll discover together what it means to truly become one." Arriving at their new beginning. The hotel suite had been specially chosen for its accessibility features, but also for its romantic atmosphere. When they arrived, Daniel carried their bags while Rachel opened the door. The room was beautiful, with soft lighting, rose petals scattered across the bed, and a bottle of champagne chilling in a bucket. "It's perfect," Rachel said, turning to Daniel with a mixture of excitement and nervousness in her eyes. "Not as perfect as you," Daniel replied, moving his wheelchair closer to her. "Rachel, before we go any further, I need you to know something. Tonight isn't about performing or meeting expectations. It's about us discovering each other, learning what brings pleasure and connection. If something doesn't work, we'll try something else. If you need to stop or slow down at any point, you tell me. This is our night, and we get to write the rules." Rachel knelt down so she was eye level with Daniel, her hands resting on his knees. "I trust you completely, Daniel. I've waited my whole life for this moment, for this man. Whatever happens tonight, I know it will be exactly what it's supposed to be because we're together." They kissed deeply, both feeling the shift from engaged couple to married partners. Tonight would change them both, not just physically but in every way that mattered. And as they began their first night as husband and wife, both knew they were embarking on a journey of discovery, vulnerability, and love that would define the rest of their lives together, the moment of truth and vulnerability. Rachel and Daniel sat together on the edge of the bed, still fully clothed, both understanding that the next hours would require more emotional courage than physical bravery. The room was quiet except for the soft music playing from Daniel's phone, a playlist he had created specifically for this moment. "I want to start with complete honesty," Daniel said, taking Rachel's hands in his. "I need to explain exactly what my body can and cannot do, not to lower your expectations, but to help us work together. Some sensations I can feel fully, others are diminished or absent. Some physical responses happen normally, others require patience or assistance. But what I can promise you is that my heart feels everything, and my desire to connect with you, to love you completely, is stronger than any physical limitation." Rachel listened intently, her medical background helping her understand the clinical aspects while her love for Daniel allowed her to see beyond the mechanics to the man before her. "Thank you for being so open with me. Now let me tell you what I need from you tonight. I need you to guide me, to tell me what feels good and what doesn't. I need you to be patient with my inexperience but also to trust that I'm here because I want to be, not out of obligation or pity. I need you to believe that I see you as a whole man, capable of giving and receiving love in every way that matters." "I do believe that," Daniel said softly. "Because you've shown me that truth every day for the past 9 months. The dance of discovery." They began slowly, with kisses that grew gradually more passionate. Daniel's hands explored Rachel's face, her hair, her shoulders, memorizing every detail of this woman who had chosen him. Rachel's touches were tentative at first, uncertain, but as Daniel encouraged her with words and sounds of approval, she grew bolder. "Can I help you with your dress?" Daniel asked, his fingers finding the zipper at the back. Rachel nodded, standing so he could access it more easily. As the dress fell away, revealing the simple but elegant lingerie she had chosen for this night, she felt simultaneously vulnerable and powerful. Daniel's eyes showed such pure love and desire that all her self-consciousness melted away. "You're breathtaking," Daniel whispered. "Come here." Rachel moved closer, and Daniel guided her to sit on his lap, facing him. This position allowed them to be at eye level, to maintain the emotional connection that was just as important as the physical one. They kissed deeply, hands exploring, both learning the landscape of each other's bodies. "I need to tell you something," Rachel said between kisses. "I'm nervous, but not scared. Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense. I'm nervous too. But we're in this together, remember? We can stop anytime, slow down anytime, laugh at ourselves if things get awkward. There's no pressure, no performance we have to deliver. This is just us, figuring out how to love each other. Navigating uncharted territory." As their intimacy deepened, they encountered moments that required adaptation and communication. Daniel explained what he could feel and what required verbal feedback. Rachel asked questions without embarrassment, her nursing training helping her approach their physical connection with both tenderness and practical problem-solving. There were awkward moments, as there are for any couple navigating intimacy for the first time. A position that seemed promising proved uncomfortable. Equipment that Daniel needed was temporarily in the way. Both had to laugh when Rachel's inexperience led to a moment of confusion about what went where and how. "I'm sorry," Rachel said, frustrated with herself. "I thought I had done enough research to know what to do." Daniel pulled her close, kissing her forehead. "Hey, research and reality are two different things. We're both learning here. I haven't been with anyone since my injury, so this is new territory for me too. We're figuring it out together, and that's actually beautiful if you think about it. No bad habits to unlearn, no comparisons to other partners. Just us, creating something unique. Rachel felt tears of relief and love sliding down her cheeks. How did I get so lucky to find you? I ask myself the same question every day, Daniel replied. Now, let's try this a different way. I read somewhere that sometimes the best approach is the simplest one. The breakthrough of connection. As they continued their exploration, both made discoveries that surprised them. Rachel found that her gentle touches and whispered words of love affected Daniel deeply, creating responses that had nothing to do with physical sensation and everything to do with emotional connection. Daniel discovered that his creativity and attentiveness, combined with honest communication about what was working, helped Rachel relax into the experience rather than worry about performing correctly. Daniel, Rachel breathed, her hands gripping his shoulders. I never imagined it could feel like this. So connected, so safe, so right. That's because this is what intimacy is supposed to be, Daniel replied, his own voice thick with emotion. It's not just physical mechanics. It's two people choosing to be completely vulnerable with each other, trusting each other with the most private parts of themselves, both body and soul. When they finally achieved the physical union they had been building toward, it wasn't perfect in the Hollywood sense. There was still awkwardness, still moments of adjustment and communication. But it was perfect in the only way that mattered because it was theirs, created together with love, patience, and determination. Rachel cried, not from pain or disappointment, but from the overwhelming emotion of finally experiencing this profound connection with the man she loved. Daniel held her close, his own eyes wet with tears, understanding that something sacred had just occurred between them. The aftermath and new understanding. Afterward, they lay together in the bed, Rachel's head on Daniel's chest, both processing what they had just shared. The room was quiet again except for their synchronized breathing and the distant sound of traffic from the street below. Are you okay? Daniel asked, running his fingers through Rachel's hair. Was it what you hoped for? Or are you disappointed? Rachel lifted her head to look at him directly. Disappointed? Daniel, that was the most beautiful experience of my life. Not because it was physically perfect or because everything went smoothly, but because I got to share it with you. I felt loved, cherished, desired, and safe all at the same time. That's what I've been waiting for my whole life. Even with all the complications, all the adaptations we had to make. Especially with those things, Rachel insisted. Because they forced us to communicate, to work together, to be creative. I've heard friends talk about their first times, and most of them describe awkward encounters where neither partner really talked about what they wanted or needed. We couldn't afford not to communicate, and that made it so much more intimate than just physical release. Daniel pulled her closer, feeling a weight lift from his chest that he hadn't even fully acknowledged was there. I was so afraid I wouldn't be enough for you. That you would realize what you had given up by choosing someone with my limitations. And now? Now I realize that what we created together tonight is something most couples never achieve because they don't have to work for it. Our limitations forced us to be intentional, present, and focused on connection rather than just sensation. That's a gift, not a curse. The conversation that defined their future. As the night deepened, Rachel and Daniel continued talking, processing their experience and discussing what it meant for their future together. They lay facing each other, hands intertwined, completely comfortable in their nakedness now that the initial vulnerability had been overcome. Can I ask you something? Rachel said softly. How do you really feel about the possibility of children? I know we've talked about it in general terms, but after tonight, after experiencing this intimacy, I want to know your honest thoughts. Daniel considered his answer carefully. I want children with you more than I can express. Whether we conceive naturally or need medical assistance, whether we adopt or use a surrogate if necessary, I want to build a family with you. My injury doesn't define my ability to be a father or to create life with my wife. And you're not worried about the physical demands of parenting? About not being able to do certain things with our children? Of course I'm worried, Daniel admitted. I won't be able to carry a baby upstairs or run alongside a bicycle or play certain sports. But I can teach our children so many other valuable things. I can show them that challenges don't define you, that determination and creativity can overcome obstacles, that physical limitations don't limit love or wisdom or the ability to be present and engaged in their lives. Rachel kissed him softly. You're going to be an amazing father. And you're going to be an amazing mother. Our children will be lucky to have you. They talked about their dreams for the future. A house designed for accessibility but filled with warmth and laughter. Careers that would provide for their family while still allowing time for what mattered most. Travel to places they both wanted to see, adapted to accommodate Daniel's needs but no less adventurous. And through it all, the commitment to maintain the intimate connection they had discovered tonight. The morning after and new beginnings. When morning light filtered through the curtains, Rachel woke to find Daniel already awake, watching her with a tender expression. "Good morning, wife," he said softly. "Good morning, husband," Rachel replied, stretching luxuriously. "How long have you been awake?" "A while. I've been thinking about last night, about you, about how my life led me to this moment." "And what have you concluded?" Daniel smiled. "I've concluded that my accident, as horrible as it was, led me to you. If I hadn't been injured, I wouldn't have been at that rehabilitation center. You wouldn't have walked through that door and into my life. Sometimes I think God allows hard things to happen so that better things can come from them." Rachel's eyes filled with tears. "I've thought the same thing. All those years I waited, turning down relationships that didn't feel right, sometimes wondering if I was being too picky or too rigid in my values. But I was waiting for you, Daniel. I just didn't know it yet." They ordered room service for breakfast, eating together in bed, completely comfortable with each other in a way that only comes from true intimacy. They talked about the previous night with the same openness they had shown during the experience itself. "Was there anything that didn't work that we should try differently next time?" Daniel asked, approaching their intimate life with the same practical problem-solving he applied to his architectural work. Rachel appreciated his directness. "Actually, I think we figured out pretty quickly what worked for both of us. But I want to keep exploring, keep learning about your body and mine. I don't want our physical relationship to become routine or boring. Trust me, with the creativity we had to employ last night, routine is the last thing we need to worry about," Daniel said with a laugh. 6 months later, the proof that love conquers all. 6 months into their marriage, Rachel and Daniel had settled into a rhythm that balanced both the everyday practicalities of life and the intimate connection they had discovered on their wedding night. Their physical relationship had evolved and deepened as they became more comfortable with each other and more creative in their approaches to intimacy. One evening, Rachel came home from work with a secret she had been keeping for 2 weeks. She found Daniel in his home office, working on designs for a new accessible housing project. "Daniel, I need to talk to you about something," she said, her voice trembling slightly. He immediately swiveled his chair to face her, concern crossing his features. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" "I'm more than okay," Rachel said, pulling a small object from her purse. "I'm pregnant." Daniel stared at the positive pregnancy test in her hand, his expression cycling through shock, disbelief, and finally pure joy. "Are you serious? We're going to have a baby?" "We're going to have a baby," Rachel confirmed, tears streaming down her face. "The doctor said it might take longer or require medical intervention, but it happened naturally, Daniel. Our baby, created from our love." Daniel pulled Rachel onto his lap, holding her tightly as they both cried happy tears. "This is the best news I've ever received. You've given me so many gifts, Rachel. Your love, your patience, your belief in me when I didn't believe in myself. And now this." "We gave each other this," Rachel corrected. "We created this life together, the same way we've created everything else in our marriage." Through love, determination, and refusing to let limitations define what's possible. The testament to their journey. As they sat together, Daniel's hand resting protectively over Rachel's still flat stomach, both reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. From their first meeting in a rehabilitation center, through a courtship built on honesty and respect, to a wedding night that had proven intimacy transcends physical perfection, to this moment where they would soon welcome new life into their family. You know what amazes me most about our story? Daniel said quietly. It's that we almost never met. If you hadn't taken that wrong turn, if I hadn't been in that therapy room at that exact moment, if either of us had let fear or doubt stop us from pursuing this connection, we would have missed out on the most beautiful love either of us could have imagined. Rachel nodded. I think about that too. And I think about all the couples out there who let physical circumstances or societal expectations dictate what's possible for them. I hope our story can show people that love really does conquer all, that intimacy is about so much more than physical ability, and that the right person is worth waiting for, worth fighting for. Do you think we should share our story? Daniel asked. Help other couples who might be facing similar situations? I think we already do, just by living our lives openly and joyfully. People see us together and they see that disability doesn't diminish love or partnership or the ability to build a full life together. That's a powerful testimony without saying a word. The legacy of love. 9 months later, Rachel gave birth to a healthy baby girl they named Grace, a name they chose because it represented the unearned gift of love and redemption they had both received through each other. Daniel held his daughter for the first time with tears streaming down his face, overcome with gratitude for the life he had built with Rachel. Look at her, he whispered, studying the tiny perfect face of his daughter. She's absolutely perfect. Rachel, exhausted but glowing, reached over to touch Grace's tiny hand. She's ours, Daniel. A living testament to what we've built together. As the nurse took photos of their new family, both Rachel and Daniel knew that their journey had come full circle. What had started as an unexpected meeting between a gentle girl and a broken man had blossomed into a love story that proved physical barriers were no match for emotional connection, honest communication, and unwavering commitment.